Spirit. Is it the force that binds us? Is it something that makes Ultimate unique? Or is it just the first rule in the Ultimate rulebook? I went out and about at Mixed Tour in Cardiff to find out, starting off with what I thought was a fairly easy question. What is Spirit?
What is Spirit? That's a very tough question, Tom.
I think that Spirit is... It's a good question.
That's a really difficult question.
Not quite such an easy question then. Maybe it's easier to define what it means to you.
It's something that personally I play, it's the reason why I play.
It's the thing that sets Ultimate apart from all the other sports I've ever played. You know, makes it a lot more fun to play.
Well, yeah, but what is it? Or perhaps it's easy to say what it's not.
In the final point of a really serious important game at 15-15 to go through in whatever tournament you're playing, there'll be a point at which you could call something not quite in keeping with the game, not quite in keeping with the rules, and you could probably get away with it. Spirit is making the active choice not to say something then, not to call something that you potentially could get away with.
I'm just messing about. We all know what Spirit is. We just choose to define it and describe it in different ways.
The first word that springs into my head is respect.
Spirit is enjoyment of the game and respect for your opponents.
Playing the games according to the rules, and like if there's a call, sorting it out.
It's when two teams can play as competitively as physically possible, but yet still have a nicely friendly game where you still feel like you've not been absolutely screwed over by a really bad call or that sort of stuff. Everything's sorted out fairly.
Playing the game fairly, being responsible for your own actions, maintaining the rules of the game so that everybody has fun, but it's fair.
Spirit's about respecting the players that you're playing against, playing sort of how you want to be treated on the pitch in the first place, and sticking to that philosophy, really.
Knowledge of the game and like good sportsmanship, I think. Respect between both teams, being able to win in accordance to the rules, not bending rules and upholding the rules, and kind of making it so it's enjoyable and there's not too much aggression.
Well, that's all good, but what do the rules say? Well, if you think there's only one rule in the Ultimate Rulebook about Spirit, and it looks like this, you're reading 2002's rules and you really need to get yourself up to date. These days, there's 11 points to the Ultimate Rule about Spirit, and include all sorts of things like this. All players are responsible for administering and adhering to the rules. Ultimate relies on spirit of the game that places the responsibility for fair play on every player. It is trusted that no player will intentionally break the rules, thus there are no harsh penalties for breaches, but rather a method of resuming play in a manner which simulates what most likely would have occurred had there been no breach. So we all know what Spirit is, but is it different in different divisions? Mixed versus open, mixed versus women's?
It's just different, I'd say. It's not worse. I think it's a completely different kind of sport, women's and mixed, so the spirit is completely different as well.
I think that it's similar, maybe different in open, but I think mixed tour is generally well-spirited, and I think women's tours are pretty well-spirited.
Mixed tour is the more spirited tour, I would say.
There are more calls, because the men call it, don't they? Yeah. Women don't really call anything.
I think the styles of play are different. There's a lot more that's considered within the rules in open that's not considered within the rules in mixed. There's a lot more physicality, there's a lot more pushing and shoving and hands and incidental contact. Whereas with mixed, I don't think that exists so much, but I think the same adherence to the rules, there's the same level of spirit, it's just the rules are slightly different, they're interpreted slightly differently.
Mixed is often, in my experience, has often been perceived as the most spirited version of the game, or people have always kind of expressed that opinion to me. It's not generally my opinion. I've had very spirited games in both divisions of the game, so I don't think that one division is particularly more spirited than the other. I think it depends on the teams in either division.
So who sets the bar for the spirit? Is it the team captain? The team members? Everybody?
I think the captain sets the standard. So as long as the captain plays spirit, I think the rest of the team will. The captain's responsibility is to keep his team in check.
it's up to the captains to sort of take their team aside, make sure that they're playing spirit well, and if they're not, then just calm it down a little bit. So it's definitely up to the captains.
It's also a team thing. You all know that you play fairly and you hope that the other team does as well.
Mentality is everything, and that's the captain's responsibility, and the team that you build as well.
The captain often has a big influence on the team, and I mean, for us, if he was acting in a bad way, in a way that we saw as being unspirited, I think there's enough players in the team to recognise that, and we would actually mention that to him. But I know that perhaps for other teams, the captain might be so dominant a force that his bad spirit might rub off onto the other team. In turn as well, if the captain is good-spirited, then hopefully that would rub off on everyone who's involved with him.
Leadership is one thing, personnel is another. I think the team atmosphere, which is set up by the people that run it and is upheld by the people that are in it, I think the atmosphere of the team dictates that, and I think that comes quite early on when a team's put together, of what kind of atmosphere you have as a team. And I know the teams that I've played on where I'm proud, or I feel that we've been spirited, it's because that's been a decision early on that that's something important to everyone on the team. That makes it easier to uphold. It's a shared decision, so that's what makes a spirited team. I think the teams that come across as less spirited, that's not been part of their decision in the original stages of the team.
Well, interestingly, let's look at the rules again, because they have something to say about this. Teams are the guardians of the spirit of the game and must take responsibility for teaching their players the rules and good spirit, discipline players who display poor spirit, and provide constructive feedback to other teams about how to improve their adherence to the spirit of the game. So there you go. Now I wonder, when was the last time that you and your team had a conversation about the sort of spirit you wanted to play with, the sort of attitude and atmosphere that you wanted to create, and the sort of regard that you wanted other teams to have about you and your team? Probably a while.